Welcome to my channel. In this video, we continue on with the book titled The Mind's Attainment by Uriel Buchanan. I am Daisy, your hostess. If you just found us at this video and would like to catch up, please visit my book playlist and grab previous chapters there. And to our community subscribers, welcome back. Wow, what do you think? I have to tell you that I don't know what the next chapters are going to hold, but these last two chapters, I believed, contained the method to be used and applied to contact and commune with the infinite. Again, so simple in our face, but it is all a matter of discipline and also being vigilant of what thoughts are occupying the mind. I'm not going to give my recap on the previous chapters because I really want you to dive in there and grab those secrets and golden nuggets and leave me a comment. Tell me what you think of that. So without further delay, on to chapter 11, The Spirit of Youth. Through the days of childhood and youth, the evolutionary force at work in the organism manifests a constantly increasing vitality. The growth of the body corresponds to the growth of the mind. For a number of years, the divine selfhood within, acting through the ganglionic centers, directs the course of the aggregated cells in building up a most wonderful structure whose forces are controlled and inspired for divine purposes. The perfect development of the physical organism, which is only the self made visible, permits free activity and expression of the divine life, opens up infinite capacities of attainment, and qualifies for all possible duties. The material form, having its birth in the natural world, is subject to the laws of its earthly existence. The mind and body are maintained for a number of years by a reciprocal action which is nearly equal. But as the evolution of the incarnated principles which constitute the real self can never pause, there arrives a period when the elements which enter into the composition of the physical structure fail to unfold in harmony with the inner life. Because of false methods of living and erroneous teaching relative to the allotted time of man's earthly existence, thoughts of the gradual approach of old age and death are set up in the mind, causing the finest and most subtle essences to be slowly withdrawn. Earth finally reclaims her own. The purifying fire of nature consumes the dross and remolds the primal elements into other forms. Yet the human constitution, being an aggregation of cells which in their essence, forms and particles are indestructible, is endowed with the power of maintaining its individuality as an instrument of the eternal life currents, as long as man is bound by the law of love and attraction to the things of life. There are those who have lived 70 years or more, who by changing every habit of mind and body and cultivating an active interest in the spirit of the present, might awaken new hopes and aspiration and continue in the full vigor of usefulness for 30 or 40 added years. Therefore, dispel from your mind the thought of age, and feel that deep down in yourself is a luminous center whose power perpetually renews the tissues and builds up the cells, producing rhythmic vibrations that unite the energies of the body to omnipresent life. To dwell on this and similar thoughts and keep your mind on the bright side of all things will enable the spirit of youth to abide in your heart for all time. The most important step in the attainment of self-mastery is taken by gaining the power to subdue and direct the impulses and feelings. The next step is to conquer thought, then speech, and finally to gain control over all the voluntary organs of the body so as to consciously direct every movement by the will. To cultivate the feelings so as to be influenced only by pure impulses and noble aspirations, there must be harmonious and beautiful environment, thorough mental culture by contact with bright intellects, purity of thought and periods of silent meditation, companionship with nature, and thought communion with the higher self. And there must be virtue, for virtue is the great lodestone which attracts the finer essence of life and shapes it into the stately structure of the regenerated body. Virtue is the talisman of the adept and the keynote of magical power. The unscarred purity of one's heart is the priceless pearl of eternity. By hard and persistent work, concentrating all the energies of body and mind in the effort to achieve the thing desired, being thorough and honest, enthusiastic and kind, having faith in one's natural ability and innate power, there is no task too difficult and no environment so fraught with obstacles which one may not conquer. When every faculty of the mind, every nerve center of the body, every muscle and every cell become completely polarized to the spark of life which glows within the invisible center of the higher self, then every word will be a sovereign decree and every act a perfect manifestation of the word. As long as you remain ignorant of the fact that life is omnipresent and that you are an inseparable part of that life, you will fail to appropriate that which is rightfully yours, and will live and move in a circle that is limited by your own thoughts and acts. That universal force which gives to the blazing suns their quenchless flames of fiery energy, that ether through which the innumerable planets move in their appointed orbits, magical equilibrium and unvarying precision, which gives to the flowers their perfume and to the birds their song, is the one eternal life of the universe. It flows into the heart of man, and the breath of its energy feeds and renews him like the air that flows into the lungs to energize and purify the blood. It is the paramount duty of every human being to seek and delve and find the hidden truths which pertain to the unfoldment of whatever latent gifts may be consciously or unconsciously possessed. For herein lies the royal road which leads to the concentration and the mastery of scattered forces and to an ultimate triumph over all obstacles to be met in the relentless battle for existence. So many helpless human beings grope blindly and unprogressively through the dull, eventless years, passing a purposeless life hemmed in by narrow and discordant environments without a solitary experience to uplift and enlighten. Man becomes the sport of fate, swayed by the elemental forces which destroy without mercy, or the builder of a divine destiny, the master of all things, according to the uses he makes of the mysterious powers hid deep in himself. By persistent effort and a determined, unfaltering will, he may direct the controlled energies against the fortified walls, where numberless invisible foes vigilantly guards life, unrevealed treasures, and contending every step of advancement, may finally pass through the marble gateway to the white palace of truth. Only by will and struggle may man hope to wrest from the storehouse of nature the jewels she hides from him. For millions of years, nature has turned a deaf ear to the cries and groans of the weak and helpless, and the pulses of her great throbbing heart have gone out in fullness to the strong and victorious. Call it a stern, unjust law if we will, it is none the less true, and its decree is inexorable. There is no sentiment and no variableness in the heart of nature. The strong survive and the weak perish. The indifferent and the useless shall give way to the alert and powerful. We may pity those who innocently suffer. We may help the poor and oppressed, and by the magic power of gold change their environment from attic to palace. Yet if we fail to awaken within them a knowledge of their untried strength, and to create in their hearts a desire to persist with determined resolve in shaping their lives to noble ideals, the result of our efforts will be of small value. journeying with the swift fleeting years toward that horizon where the evening shadows forebode the coming night. The degree of man's happiness and worth will not be measured alone by the hoarded productions of wealth and the broad lands he may claim, but by the treasures of knowledge and the stores of wisdom, by the strength and beauty of his mind, and by the purity and glory of the light which burns on the altar of the heart's sanctuary. To thirst for knowledge and yearn for the true and beautiful, to enrich the mind, to feast on the wonders of nature and the beauties of art, is to awaken in man a knowledge of his rightful inheritance and endow him with that priceless possession which fire cannot consume nor time obliterate. A noble character evolved from the imperishable principle of truth is the white flower of the mind, whose beauty and fragrance fill the heart with peace and love. The man who would make the highest attainment must become identified with the world's progressive movement and give himself freely for the good of the race. The rightful answerings to all important problems will not be found in lofty contemplation and abstract knowledge, but among the common things of life itself. The man who would become wise must accept the responsibilities of his position and keep in sympathetic touch with humanity. Every man owes to the world the duty to serve according to the measure of his best ability. And he who bends all his powers to lifting the load and sharing the burdens of the many will unite his forces to the central power of the universe. Develop an independent judgment. Study yourself, your hopes and aims, your relation to environment, and the possibilities that are yours. Look deep in your being and receive from the inward source the revelations of life. With steadfast eye fixed on the highest goal, maintain your allegiance to truth and resolve that no power shall control and direct you save the commands issued from the throne of that invisible kingdom which is yours by every law. Use the knowledge and experience of others if it is helpful to personal advancement, but maintain an independent judgment and flash the searchlight of reason on all subjects that are vague. Lift yourself above the shadow of pessimism and despair and bask in the sunlight of freedom and progress. The gift of a liberal and progressive individuality, independent, determined, and sincere, is the noblest heritage of man. Its culture and growth lead to the emancipation of the mind and will from the rule of others. There are infinite capacities within the self which simply await our loving recognition to bud and blossom into tangible realities. The deep inward yearning is the progressive spirit of life which impels humanity onward. It is the mute pleading of the aspiring self in search of the destined goal of its mission. End of chapter 11. We'll stay right here as we move forward to chapter 12. Mental influences. Thought is an invisible substance which acts apart from the body. It vibrates through space and exerts an influence over responsive minds. As you learn how to make the best use of thought, how to concentrate and direct it, you can accomplish more in any business or undertaking and attract more and more of the element of power which gives success. The mind is like a magnet. It attracts an element of force corresponding in nature to the dominating quality of thought. If you hold in your mind the positive thought of determination, enthusiasm, cheerfulness, strength, sympathy, hope, and courage, you will attract more and more of such qualities from the unseen realm of mind. To set your thoughts in the right direction of desire and aspiration for these and similar elements of success, you will send out invisible waves which will act on others whose thoughts will meet and mingle with your own. You will gather new strength from such contact and will attract forces favorable to the attainment of your response. But if you are under influence of fear, of discouragement, or hopelessness, you will attract thoughts of like kind, which will affect you disagreeably. Association with anyone of lower thought will cause you to absorb his thought. Though you may be positive and determined, you will be influenced more or less by whatever quality of thought dominates the mind of your associate. You will carry a part of his negative, discordant thought with you and will send out a similar influence which others will feel. Thought is the moving force of all progress or retrogression, of all success or failure. The nature of the thought we hold determines the conditions which surround us. Like creates like in the domain of mind, and there is a force within us which is ever at work to create a material correspondence of every persistent desire. The measure of man's success in any direction is determined by the predominant state of his mind. If you are hopeful, enthusiastic, and courageous, and do not yield to the influence of despondency and doubt, you are sending out forces which will attract the good. And as your faith becomes stronger in your ability to control and direct your thoughts, you will absorb the finer elements which bring health, peace, happiness, and all things desired. It is difficult to keep permanently in a hopeful, confident mood of mind, as there are times when progress is slow and the opposing influences seem greater than the forces which aid. But the man who has faith in his power, the man who sees only the good and knows that from every experience will come more strength and greater persistency, wisdom, and courage, will bend all things to his purpose and make every circumstance aid him in material advancement. Having a definite aim always in view, a thought force is generated which is felt by all with whom you have dealings. If you have confidence in your power, if you know that the work you are doing is legitimate, that while advancing your own interests, you are also doing that which will be effective for good to the world at large, you will awaken response in the minds of others and attract from all with whom you have dealings an element of force which will help you to attain success. Those who are on the same plane of thought as yourself will send you currents of sympathy, which will strengthen your purpose and aid you to keep in communication with powerful influences which will carry you onward to the highest happiness and great success. Man can accomplish but little when working alone. He may be in touch with the supreme power and invoke the aid of all the forces of nature, yet he feels the need of encouragement that comes from sympathetic contact with human life. Those who make the greatest attainment in any field of human endeavor receive much of their strength from powerful minds which work in unison. Valuable ideals and plans for advancement are obtained by talking with others. A constructive thought current is established between kindred minds, which results in a mutual encouragement and help. But there are destructive forces which are as potent to tear down as others to build. There are people who carry with them an atmosphere of gloom and despair. They have no knowledge of the law, no faith in the goodness of humanity, no confidence in themselves. They invite disaster and failure. They have no courage to assert themselves, to stand up for their rights, to demand recognition. They can reach no decision. They are swayed by every discordant influence sent out by immature minds, by the ignorant, the unawakened. It is essential to cut off all association with such minds before you can hope to rise to a brighter atmosphere and overcome the negative influences which cause disease, weakness, and failure. Self-assertion is the first principle of selfhood. Before you can help another, you must gain the knowledge and strength to help yourself, and this can be accomplished only by a total estrangement from all harmful association, by cutting off the muddy currents of thought from minds that are diseased and morbid. If your work brings you in contact with the despondent, the weak, the hopeless, you should make yourself impervious to the baneful influence coming from them by sending out a positive force which will instantly repel every disagreeable thought. And when you have gained the power to attract an abundance of superior force coming from helpful sources, you may exert an influence over inferior minds, which will help them to rise to a higher plane. Through silent demand, you may call down power from high invisible sources and radiate an influence which others will feel and respond to. When you have made a success of your own life, when your feet are firmly set on the rock of knowledge and your mind is in line of correspondence with the infinite power, you can reach out your hand to the weak, the ignorant, the discouraged, and point out to them the way to a knowledge of truth, to fullness of life and freedom from pain, misfortune, and failure. When you have passed through life's trying experiences, when you have gained an exalted place by your own efforts, when you have established sympathetic relationship with the supreme power and live permanently in its helpful current, others will see the light in your eyes and will desire it, will respond to the tones of your voice, and be drawn nearer to the fountain of all life, wisdom, and love. If you have any great undertaking to accomplish, which will benefit the world as well as yourself, you will receive help and encouragement from countless invisible sources. If your heart is right, your desires noble, your aims lofty, you will receive help in many mysterious ways which will strengthen your faith in the divine leading. As you seek earnestly to cooperate with the evolutionary forces of nature, you will unite yourself with all the enkindling sympathies of life. Your ideals will expand, your faith will grow stronger, and you will reach up into the realm of cause and attract all power needed to manifest the harmonies of that larger and broader and more sympathetic life, which recognizes man's vital relationship to the infinite. We can, in our association with others, absorb their passive, negative, discordant thoughts and so become slaves to similar beliefs and conditions. Or by keeping in touch with the higher forces, by becoming positive, magnetic, and active, we can attract the helpful influences which give confidence, courage, and self-mastery. He who takes the attitude of the slave will become the slave. He who takes the attitude of the master by the supremacy of his mind and the power he attracts from the higher and more potent influences will become the master. Each has latent within him the power to determine whether his life shall be eventful or purposeless, whether he shall have bright and beautiful environments and all that the aspiring mind desires, or only the unwholesome, degrading surroundings created by thoughts of fear and despair. The universe is filled with all that is good and beautiful, all that is needful to satisfy man's highest hopes, his fondest dreams and yearnings. Every possible thing that ever was or shall be already exists in potentiality in the great storehouse of the universe, awaiting the magic touch of human thought to bring it forth into the world of form. Every flight of genius, every great attainment in all the varied realms of human endeavor, every grand achievement made through the historic ages are but prophecies of the more wonderful power concealed in the heart of the race, awaiting the command of a masterful mind to come forth as a living token and proof of man's divinity. End of chapter 12. All right. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and head over to the next video where we're going to tap into chapter 13, Elements of Success.